young entrepreneurs jumping into entrepreneurship. Then after 6 months, I see a lot of people just losing the hope that this is too tough. How do these folks need to understand the ground reality and then operate?
You don't do things just because somebody is successful at it. One is, first of all, you have to understand yourself. Are you a person who is enterprising, or are you a person who...
What do you see happening in our country in the next decade in terms of wealth generation, in terms of business creation, in terms of the tech?
Wealth of any nation depends upon 4 essential factors. The first factor is...
your risk appetite will determine how far you go in life. And I think that's true with finance, that's true with anything in life.
And I think risk and reward is the most important thing which we look at finance when we look at an instrument.
So in marketing and copywriting, we have that 20% of the work we do gives us about 80% of the outcome in terms of conversion, in terms of business and whatnot.
See, it is applicable everywhere in your life. This 20-80 Pareto principle is almost applicable everywhere. And the moment you start going more 20-80, more 20-80.
So, sir, all of us, at least the people I meet, struggle with visualizing compounding. And मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि compounding हर फील्ड में एग्जिस्ट करता है, ना कि जस्ट फाइनेंस में. तो हाउ डू यंग पीपल विजुअलाइज इट?
आपने कभी स्नोबॉल देखा है? तो स्नोबॉल जब आप एक छोटा सा पत्थर एक पहाड़ के ऊपर से छोड़ो, स्नो माउंटेन पे छोड़ो, वो नीचे जाते 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 स्नो को गैदर करता है. तो जब वो स्नो गैदर करता है, शुरू में वो बहुत छोटा होता है, इतना सा होता है, फिर वो धीरे 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 बड़ा होता है, तब तक भी दिखता नहीं. बट लेट्स से व्हेन इट रीचेस हाफ वे द माउंटेन, सडनली सी यार कुछ बड़ा हो गया. एंड जब वो माउंटेन के एंड तक पहुंचता है, इट हैज़ द कैपेसिटी टू एक्चुअली किल पीपल. अगर उसके सामने कोई आ जाए तो वो मर सकता है. उसके सामने कोई बहुत बड़ा व्हीकल आ जाए तो वो व्हीकल ओवरटर्न हो सकता है. तो ये होती है कंपाउंडिंग. इसे हम कहते हैं स्नोबॉल इफेक्ट. तो कंपाउंडिंग इज अ स्नोबॉल इफेक्ट. इफ समबडी नीड्स टू विजुअलाइज कंपाउंडिंग, अगर मनी के साथ विजुअलाइज करना है, तो आप जितने भी सॉलिड वेल्थ क्रिएटर्स हैं उनको आप देखो. अगर आप फॉर एग्जाम्पल वॉरेन बुफे को देखते हो, तो वॉरेन बुफे हैज़ कंपाउंडेड मनी फ्रॉम 1965 till 2024 for almost 60 years at the rate of 19.8% per annum. Now, if I tell somebody today, a youngster, that you will make money for the next 60 years at 19.8% per annum, they say, हाँ छोड़ बे, मेरे को तो महीने में 20% चाहिए. Here, this guy is making less than 20% per annum. But the thing is, he made that money for 60 years. So if you would have invested 10,000 rupees at the beginning of his journey, you would be sitting on more than 100 crores today. I'm not talking about 10,000 SIP. I'm talking about 10,000 one time.
Right.
तो आपने ऊपर से एक पत्थर छोड़ा था, पर वो पहाड़ इतना बड़ा था कि वो जब गैदर किया, it has generated generational wealth for you. Now your generations to come don't have to work for it. So compounding जो है is a long term game. Compounding doesn't give you effect till almost first 7-8 years. चाहे आप जॉब में देख लो, चाहे आप बिजनेसेस में देख लो, चाहे आप रिलेशनशिप्स में देख लो. When does a bond grow better? Because when you get older together, then you should grow older together. तो when you grow older together, that time your bond grows. ठीक है. और उस बीच की एक जर्नी है, उस जर्नी को जीना पड़ता है. कभी अप्स आते हैं, कभी डाउन्स आते हैं, चाहे आपका बिजनेस हो, चाहे पर्सनल लाइफ हो, चाहे आपका एम्प्लॉयमेंट हो. Ups and downs आते रहते हैं. But if you live through that journey, you compound and you become something very, very different from where you started, and you become very big from where you started. So I think compounding is something which works in every field of your life, right from your relationships to your business to your profession, and then obviously to your money. So this is how you can visualize compounding in your life.
Right. And I think fundamentally, most people give up very soon in whatever endeavor they embark upon. एक साल बिजनेस किया, छोड़ दिया, फिर कुछ नया कर लिया, फिर कुछ और नया ट्राई कर लिया. I think that is what stops people to actually experience compounding at its core.
True. Everybody wants to become Zerodha, but they don't realize that the founders of Zerodha have been trading, been in the market for the last 20-25 years. तो चाहे उनकी एज कम है, पर वो 14-15 साल की उम्र से दोनों भाई लगे हुए थे. Zerodha itself is, I think, more than 11-12 years old. Everybody wants to become a Zoho, but that guy is struggling or doing things for the last more than 30 years. Everybody wants to become Ambanis, but they are generations to 1977 से लेके अभी तक they are doing business. And so if you see any person who has made massive wealth has taken 40 years, 50 years to create that kind of. If you look at Asian Paints, which is one of the biggest wealth compounders of our country, It has been in the industry for more 40 years. Wipro का IPO आपको पता है कौन से साल में आया था? 1946. Yes, 1946 was when the IPO of Wipro came out. So it is in the industry since now you can say almost 80 years. So it is great things take time to create. Infosys is in the market since 1980s. तो मैं ऐसी बहुत एग्जांपल्स दे सकता हूँ जो कंपनियाँ आज टॉप 10 में दिखती हैं वो बहुत टाइम से इंडस्ट्री में बहुत टाइम से मार्केट में एंड वेल्थ कंपाउंडिंग हैपन्स ओनली व्हेन यू गिव टाइम सी द फॉर्मूला फॉर कंपाउंड इंटरेस्ट mathematical formula for compound interest is A is equal to P into 1 plus R raised to N. So where A is your final outcome, P is the money you invested, R is the rate of return it gathered, and N is the duration. The two things which are in your control, it depends on three things: how much you invest, how long you invest, and what is your investment getting you in terms of returns. Returns is not in your control because you may get superlative returns for the first 3 years of your life. Suddenly there's a crash and the market stays put for next 9 years. What will you do? So the only thing which is really in your control is how much you invest and for how long you invest. Now how much you invest is in multiplication. P multiplied by 1 plus R.
Right.
But N is in exponential. So more than how much you invest is the answer is how long you invest. And so this simple formula gives you a very clear indication that compounding is the biggest factor which defines compounding is time.
Right. So how do you see wealth or money in terms of accomplishing what a human being wants?
See, wealth has to secure independence for you. India has been a poor country. People, were middle class, poor, very less. Until today also, very less number of people are rich or wealthy. So initial part of most of our lives would be a time trade. We would trade our time to make money. It's quintessentially the employment part of the life. But if you are not thinking of building wealth, this will become your complete life. That means every day of your life till you die, you will be only working for somebody else. That is because you didn't put your money to work. I don't blame you to trade your time for money because that was your circumstance. But I would definitely blame you that if after 20, 30 years also, you have not been able to accomplish that much corpus which can give you financial freedom, which can buy you your time, you have to buy your time back, right? Because you have to live. And if you have to live, you have to beat inflation, you have to maintain costs, you have to maintain a lifestyle. So you get a span of good 15, 20 years to do this. And if you still are not able to do this, that means your relationship with money is not great. You're not able to generate returns. You're not able to understand money. And you're not able to free yourself. Warren Buffett says that if you have only one source of income, you are just one step away from poverty. And that's so true. That today, I know if you see corporate data, more than 98% of the employees are living paycheck to paycheck.
Yep.
That means the very next day, if they don't receive a paycheck, they're gone. They don't know how to pay off their EMIs. They don't have a runway of 3 months. Leave apart 6 months, 12 months. They don't know what will they do. And now, due to the advent of AI and technologies, earlier, the redundant jobs were getting replaced. Now, analytical jobs are getting replaced. Content writers are getting replaced. Data analysts are getting replaced. So, it's a very worrisome factor. However, this can be overcome by investing for a longer duration and building wealth so that you can be financially free and you can buy your own time after a certain amount of time, which could vary for everybody. Somebody who has high active income can retire early. Somebody who starts with a lower active income can retire a little late. But it cannot so happen that you are working till the last day of your life for money.
Right.
You could live for your passion, you could work for your passion, and you could make money there. But if you're working under a certain stress that I have to pay off my EMIs and, oh God, what will happen if I don't have a job tomorrow? God, you are just one step away from poverty.
Yep. And that's where we are following the Western civilization, how Europe has been, how London or UK or US has been. Most of the people are living like this only.
But they have social security. You have to understand, if you become jobless in US, you get some, money from the government to take care of your basic needs. Here, the government wouldn't even know that you have gone jobless and they don't even care. So you have to care for yourself. You have to pay to the government. You have to pay your share of taxes. But after that, you have to still care for yourself. And if you don't care for yourself, then you can't go and blame the government, because the government doesn't have time. It has to take care of good 90, 100 crore people who are living below poverty line.
Yep.
So, you are the creator of your own journey in this case.
And that's so true. I think that's so true in all the aspects of life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What do you see happening in our country in the next decade in terms of wealth generation, in terms of business creation, in terms of the tech? Like what do you envision and what do you see happening right now as well?
So basically, you have asked me a beautiful economics question.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an economics reply. So the best book of economics till date has been The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith. And I think it is a Bible, or it is Bhagavad Gita for economics till today. It's one of the oldest written books. And he mentions that the wealth of any nation, Wealth of Nations, the book is called. Wealth of any nation depends upon 4 essential factors. The first factor is that what is the demography of that country. The second factor is what is the consumption of that particular country. Third is what is the level of entrepreneurship in that country. And fourth is what is the level of innovation in that country. So these are the 4 factors on which an economy or a country depends on. So if you look at demographics, great, we are a very young nation. We have people who can work. We have major workforce, which, a major addition to the workforce every year. So that's great. Consumption, I think we have started learning how to consume. Earlier, we were a total closed, only savings economy. But over the last 10 years, I have also seen that people have started moving to a bit of consumption. Sometimes a bit of worrisome consumption, overspending like US. But at least they've started consuming. They've started giving money for experiences. Those kind of things have started happening. So I think consumption is on the rise. And consumption greatly benefits any economy.
Yep.
Third is entrepreneurship. I think India is a land of entrepreneurs. बिकॉज जॉब्स बहुत कम है, तो जब जॉब्स ही नहीं है तो आदमी के पास विकल्प ही नहीं है. जब उसके पास ऑप्शन नहीं है तो व्हाट ही डज इज ही फाइंड्स द स्मॉलेस्ट थिंग विच ही कैन डू, सेट अप अ स्मॉल किराना शॉप एंड सिट एंड सेल अंडा, दूध एंड ब्रेड. ही विल डू दैट. And from there, some people have created enterprises. So if you see V-Mart, D-Mart, all these people have started creating enterprises like that. So I think entrepreneurship is almost a way of life in our country, because we don't have much jobs. And government jobs, the odds are so stacked against you that 0.001% is your chance that you will end up into a government job. Private sector has that many openings which it can fill. So end of the day, आपके पास विकल्प क्या बचा? So do small jobs, SMEs, small factory you open, and government is pretty supportive in that. I think fourth place is something which is still worrisome, which is innovation. So there is no incentive for innovation in our country. People don't have runways. We were talking behind the scene that some friend of yours wants to develop something. He wants 3 years of runway, but he doesn't have that runway. If the same was in US, he would have been given grants by the country, and he would have been given an opportunity to fail also. If you look at Singapore basically funds its companies to expand overseas. So they give the first year rent, salary to a certain level. They give it free to the enterprise. And if you achieve their business plan which you have submitted, they go for second year. They will give you free for second year also. So I think a lot of countries are doing it to expand in different countries so that they can get foreign currency. But India में अभी innovation को लेके I feel we are very पीछे. But one thing which we are good at is जुगाड़. So we are able to copy fast. We are able to localize things very fast. So if Uber comes, Ola also comes. If DoorDash comes, then Zomato also comes, or Swiggy also comes. So ये हुआ है इंडिया में, एंड आई थिंक इट्स गुड. इट्स ऐसा नहीं है, वहाँ की चीज़ों को थोड़ा कॉपी करके कस्टमाइज करने से भी आई थिंक अ लॉट ऑफ वैल्यू हैज़ बीन क्रिएटेड इन द कंट्री. But India is a land of SMEs, small and medium enterprises. We have 1 lakh odd startups, but we have more than 6.5-7 crore SMEs. So that's the kind of difference we have in the numbers. So these are the 4 things on which a wealth of nation depends upon, or the growth of the nation depends upon. And I am personally pretty bullish upon all these 4 factors. And apart from that, the government is giving the right directional push. It is focusing more on infrastructure. It is focusing more on green energy. It is focusing on farmers, which constitutes a large part of our country. So I think overall, the next decade I see as a very, very opportunistic part in India. If somebody sitting in India is not able to make money in India, then I think he cannot make money anywhere in this world. Because India is the lowest cost, highest ROI opportunity presently in the world. Because if you see everywhere else, the inflation has gone through the roof. Living costs have become very difficult. But India is still a place where living costs are much in check. You can get cheap, very, very cheap labor. And your ROI opportunities, the return on investment opportunities are huge. So I think this is what makes me very optimistic about the country till now.
And I think we are also stepping in the time when we have actually recovered from the hangover of the things that happened before independence now. I think all the traumas of the generations is this generation can actually recover from and take decisions which are a little more long term, a little more conscious, so that the infrastructure that this generation, that is my generation and your generation, will set up will actually ensure that I think we can outpace China if we do the right things in this coming decade. That's my perspective. And if all, and I'm referring to these business owners, we as business owners, what role do you think we can play, the little bit role that we can play? So we are not doing hundreds of crores. These are like very rare companies that go to hundreds of crores. We're looking at small companies doing 2 crores, 5 crores, 10 crores. And how do they contribute to the growth of the nation? Because they need to set up the infra. Because if we have to compete or we have to beat the US, the Silicon Valley, I think we need to set up the foundation for innovation, and that's our responsibility. I personally feel this. So what we can do from your perspective that would make a difference? And yeah.
See, I think one thing where I believe Indian companies should really focus on is exports. And if we exports of services, exports of goods, that's not a concern. Some form of exports. See, export gives us an opportunity to present ourselves to the world. It gives us an opportunity to tap into markets which have not been earlier tapped into. It gives us an opportunity to make dollar income as compared to rupee income. And obviously, it gives us the opportunity to for the world to know what kind of products or services we are making. Today, if you look at India's exports, we are roughly around 500 billion, 600 billion in exports. China, on the other hand, is around about 3.5 trillion on exports. So when you say that we may be able to beat China in the next decade, we have to really appreciate that where they are is extremely far ahead of where we are. So there's 6 times on exports presently. Even after people saying that we don't want to buy from China, boycott China, they are 6 times ahead of us, and not on a small 100 rupee base, on a $600 billion base. So I think, and that's what China's strength is. So koi bhi country ko hypersonic growth chahiye. What is Israel? Why is Israel? They have a very local, small population locally, but their products, their technologies are circulated worldwide. They have exported their technologies, and which has given them a lot of revenue and unique identity. They license, they get recurring revenue without doing anything. Others work for them. So that's what they are building, but that's because they have a culture of innovation. So I think we need to go to the world. We need to understand what they are doing. We need to send our products to them. We need to scatter more. And see, Indians are great people. If you see America, in America, we may be constituting less than 6% of the population, but we are constituting more than 30 to 40% of the CEOs of that country in the top companies. Right. So if you look at these kind of ratios in US of Indian participation, why can't Indians do the same thing here? See, I'll give you an example, very simple example. Let's say you are driving a car in your village. You belong to some village, let's say. Kuch chote gaon se aap. So, will you follow the rules? It's a small village. Are there any rules?
I don't think so.
No, right, obviously. You'll see a signal, you may cross it. You may see a crossing, you will not wait for left, right. Okay. You may crib that there is no road, there is no signal, but you'll still keep on doing. You'll not even fulfill your own responsibilities. But will you do the same thing in Dubai? Would you do the same thing in, let's say, US, UK?
No.
You will never do that. Why? Because you know the moment you're caught, you're going to be heavily penalized.
Yeah.
To the level of you can go to jail, or you have to pay out of your pocket, or, through your nose. So how you treat a system is defined by the system itself. So people would become disciplined in UK. They will cross the road once the traffic stops. They will push that button. They will cross. In India, nobody cares. They will just run on the road. It is responsibility of the driver to make sure this guy doesn't die. Right? So when we want people to follow the system has to become like that first. Only then people will follow the system. And the only thing which can actually instill that discipline is fear. Fear of either losing your money or fear of either losing your freedom. Freedom means you could go to jail and money means obviously could be fined very heavily. I remember I had gone to Sri Lanka in 2014 and they were out of that war. It's been 4-5 years, some development had happened. And I was flabbergasted by going to that city. I thought it was some shit city, Colombo, not that great. I mean, and I went there, it is beautiful, there is no kachra on the road, it's spick and span. And I asked my friend who took me there, I asked him, why is it so? You know, and people are following the rules, people are following the traffic crossing rules. He said the urban development minister is an ex-army officer. He's though the brother of the president, but he's an army guy. So he has put jail penalty on people throwing garbage on the road. So the moment you have jail penalty being put for you to throw garbage on the road, for which, as for us, तो ये बहुत छोटी बात है यार, ऐसे चलते चलते फेंक देता आदमी. The roads are spick and span. Even if you don't have that infrastructure, they didn't have the civic infrastructure to collect garbage at scale. People used to start storing garbage in their fridges because they were so afraid कि जेल जाना पड़ेगा. So when we look at country growth, we have to develop our systems to attract the right talent, to manage people in the right manner, to get the best out of people. The system has to be developed in that manner. So this is just one example I wanted to put to you, that how if you correct the system, people automatically get. The same Indian who doesn't follow one damn rule in this country wouldn't even dare make one mistake in Dubai.
That's true.
तो बस यही है. क्यों? क्योंकि दुबई का सिस्टम ऐसा है और इंडिया का सिस्टम ऐसा है.
That's so true. So this is in the month of March. We were driving in the UK, and I didn't notice that we had crossed that limit. So in the UK, there's like 2 mark, which means that now you are on the national highway. You cannot cross 80. And my brother was driving, and we noticed that we have crossed 80. Now he said, I was here to pick up. I think I have to now. I'm assuming I have to pay the fine now of what he mentioned, £200.
That's 20,000 rupees.
Yeah, and I think I met him. I think 7 to 8 times we drove together. I think for the next month or so, he didn't even had the courage to go above 70. So I think that system does make a humongous difference when people make mistake, even in their mental scape.
Yes,
that happens. And the same is true within the companies, a little more gentler way. Even I have noticed that the systems that we have implemented in our company with a group of people, if the system is built in such a way that people love to do it, at least that's true for a small enterprise or a small company, things happen way faster and way efficiently. I think that needs to happen in our country. Maybe not at that scale, it's possible, but at some scale that can be done in a gentler way. I don't know.
See, I think every country, every system needs to have zero tolerance policy on certain things.
Yeah.
So if you don't have zero tolerance policy, the moment you allow certain thing at a smaller scale, then people get the courage to do it at a larger scale. तो अगर ट्रैफिक का सिग्नल तोड़ना गलत है because you are putting so many lives in danger, you should be penalized to an extent that he can't even think in his soul to do that same mistake again. Like you said, your brother was penalized to the tune of 200 pounds. Now he was driving at the rate of 70.
Not
Right.
80.
And in India, the same person would have cribbed, यार ये कैसा system है, मुझे पैसा देना पड़ रहा है, मैं तो अगली बार बच जाऊंगा, I will give the guy something and I'll just grease his hands and get over it. I think that's where, systems have to be non-corruptible and they have to be zero tolerance on certain mistakes which you don't want people to make. So I think system tight करेंगे तो लोग अपने आप फिर they will start following in place.
So sir, I was speaking with one of my mentors, also a friend and a mentor now. So we were having a discussion and I came up with a thing that if you have to distill all of your business learning so far, so I think he's built multiple businesses. He said to me, Akshay, your risk appetite will determine how far you go in life. And I think that's true with finance, that's true with anything in life. How do you make it more digestible for people to understand? And how do people exercise their risk appetite or increase their risk appetite in terms of, knowing something, achieving something?
Okay, very good question. And I think risk and reward or return, whatever you want to call it, is the most important thing which we look at finance when we look at an instrument कि इसमें पैसा डालूं कि नहीं डालूं. Now, let's look at it. The lowest risk item in our country is fixed deposit. So if you put go to a bank and you put less than 5 lakh rupees of fixed deposit in it, you are the safest, because now even if the bank goes bust, you'll get your 5 lakh rupees, right? So there you make an income of, let's say, 6 to 7% per annum, which is very low, which doesn't even beat inflation, and you still end up paying 30% tax or 20% marginal tax wherever you are on that. Now the next step forward, just one step forward, would be that you buy a bond of a company, or you buy debentures of a company. So for example, you have these large NBFCs, which is HDFC Bank, Bajaj Finserv, Shriram Finance. They come up with a scheme where they take money from people for 4 years, 5 years, pay quarterly, monthly interest or annual. I mean, they have those schemes. Now the risk goes up a bit, but obviously that's, instead of getting that 6.5%, 7% of FD, now you get 8%, 8.5%. Then you go a little above and you take securities which are, peer-to-peer, or these new age NBFCs which are offering anywhere between 10 to 12%. But you don't know whether they'll survive tomorrow. You have those risks. You are still covering it, but you are taking extra risk. You are now making 10 to 12% return. Then you move to mutual funds. Mutual funds in long term give you a very good return. But in short term, you can have variation, which you'll have to be able to digest and tolerate that kind of variation. Then they start giving you 14, 15, 16% returns. And then in mutual funds, you have so many categories, which can give you anywhere from 14%, 13, 14%, right up to 25%, depending upon which scheme you go to. Then you have an instrument which is, let's say, real estate. Real estate is fairly illiquid, high potential of return, but illiquidity. That means if tomorrow you are in need of money, you will not be able to immediately get money out of that. And then you have those very, very high risk assets, which would be futures and options, penny stocks, crypto, those kind of things. तो ये आपका रिस्कोमीटर है बेसिकली एक तरीके से. सो लाइक अ चाइल्ड स्टार्ट्स क्रॉलिंग फर्स्ट. ओके, फर्स्ट ही इज ऑन द बेड, ही कांट, देन ही स्टार्ट्स मूविंग, पलटने लगता है. वो बड़े लोग खुश होते हैं घर पे कि मेरा बच्चा पलट गया. दैट मीन्स ही स्टॉप नाउ टेकन द फर्स्ट रिस्क ऑफ हिज लाइफ. हाउ डज द चाइल्ड टेक द फर्स्ट रिस्क ऑफ, वो पलट जाता है. ठीक है, नाउ ही इज रिस्की बिकॉज ही कैन गेट ऑफ द बेड, ही कैन गिर सकता है. So there are measures and protections to ensure that he doesn't do that. Then he starts crawling, then he starts walking, then he grows up. Similarly, you have to grow up in risk ladder. So let's say today you are very comfortable with FD. Now start moving to at least Bajaj Finserv, HDFC Bank, big companies, large companies. You move to their FDs. You will make 1% extra, 2% extra. That will not make the earth of difference in your returns. But you will now be very comfortable taking that risk. कि नाउ अच्छा ठीक है यार, अब यहाँ तक का रिस्क मैं ले सकता हूँ. देन यू स्टेप एंड से ओके, नाउ आई हैव 100 rupees, आई हैव पुट 15 FD, 15 दिस. Okay, now I'll take out some 10 rupees from FD and I'll put in this peer-to-peer platforms, which are giving me 10 to 12% returns, fixed. ठीक है जी, no problem. Now what you have done is you have taken some part of your wealth and now you have moved to the next level of risk. ठीक है, it's like now the kid is walking but with that walker. So उसने वो रिस्क ले लिया. अब उसको 3-4 बार पेमेंट आ गई, वन टाइम क्लोजर अच्छे से हो गया, and he's got his money back. Now his confidence increases. अरे यार, I took this risk and I got my reward. I got my interest on time, I got my repayment on time. Now let me also invest in mutual funds, because mutual funds has had a history of giving good returns over last 8 to 10 to 20 years. Great. Put some money, start putting some money in mutual funds. Then again in mutual funds, you start making money, you start putting money, you start getting comfortable, you learn, you educate yourself. Then you move to, okay, sir, some part of my money I'll put in small and mid cap, because in longer period it can give me better returns.
Right.
So then you move to that. Okay. Then you feel, नहीं यार, अब मेरे पास enough corpus हो गया है, and I don't need this corpus in immediately next 5-6 years. I have 15 lakh rupees. Let me buy a plot somewhere which can grow 10 times in next 10 years. I have 10 years. I don't need this 15 lakhs for 10 years. Then you go and do real estate. You take your risk, but you understand your risk. You do the proper due diligence, thorough due diligence, and then you invest. And then some part of your money you feel like कि चलो यार मैं थोड़ा crypto समझता हूँ या ये सब करता हूँ, तो you do. So it's like growing up. So you have to grow up the risk. Then you start आपको समझ आने लगता है कि इस रिस्क को लेते कैसे हैं, इस रिस्क को सीखते कैसे. Then you start educating yourself. You start watching podcasts like these where you'll realize earlier people used to learn from books. Now they learn from podcasts. So they will learn from podcasts. They will understand something. Okay, fine. This is what I need to do. This is what I need to do. This is how I can measure my risk. This is how I can control my risk. I saw a very beautiful video that the other day that there was this female walking on the pavement, footpath, and there's this water accumulated because of rains next to her, next to the footpath, and there's this guy who's roguely driving, and there's a chance that उसके ऊपर भी छींटे आएंगे. So what she does is she picks up a stone. Okay, and now the guy slows down because it's a very expensive car which he's driving, some Lamborghini or Ferrari, and he passes very slowly from there because she had a stone. So that's called risk management. So very, very nice, this small video I saw. So what she did is she protected herself from a potential risk by taking a step. So you can take action. Any action you take, you can protect yourself from that risk. You can put a stop loss. You can put a duration period. कि इतने time तक मैं देखूंगा. I'll put only this much of my capital. I'll not bet entire capital of mine on this particular item. So yeah, these are the ways you can learn risk management.
Interesting. So in marketing and copywriting, we have that 20% of the work we do gives us about 80% of the outcome in terms of conversion, in terms of business and whatnot. How is that same applicable in finance, and do you see some pattern between how this is true for kind of whatever we do in investing, whether we do it in stocks, real estate, and the entire shebang?
See, it is applicable everywhere in your life. This 20-80 Pareto principle is almost applicable everywhere. And the moment you start going more 20-80, so first you cut the clutter of the first level, then you cut. This is what we call bottom boxing. Okay, so you box the bottom. Something which is not performing for you, you're spending time on it. You box that. You just move it out of your life. So every part of your life, you have to realize that this is irrelevant for me. Be it the set of people whom you are with. You see, what happens is when you level up in life, some people are not able to catch up with your pace. I saw a very beautiful interview by Kobe Bryant. I just follow him and he's no more because of that chopper crash. One of the biggest basketball player in the world. And he was once asked that, how do you manage relationships with people who have not been as successful as you are? There may be friends from college or school who are not even getting a job, and here you are, superstar, making a lot of money, traveling in a private jet. So he said that, see, you have to understand that I have not left them behind. I've told them that this is my journey and I'm made for this journey. So today, if I'm not able to speak to you or I'm not in your vicinity, doesn't mean I disrespect you. But for this journey, I need to be in that segment. I need to be with Michael Jordan. So I need to now change my, the association so that I can become a great player. But that doesn't mean you're disrespecting, but you have to leave that association. It's painful. But then if you do this kind of communication with your people, you can 20 years down the line when you are free from all this, and Michael Jordan was not your friend, he was just a mentor. Okay. And this guy was your real friend. You can come back to him and say, okay, let's start from where we left. But if you don't have that communication, you just ghost him, then it's not possible. So in any phase of life, you have to work on the 20-80 principle. And that's what I learned from Kobe Bryant. Another example of this is that I read somewhere, and it was by a very big author, that if you want to learn Spanish as a language, there are 1 lakh words in Spanish which you have to learn. 1 lakh. However, 99% of the communication happens in 2,500 words. So if you learn those 2,500 words, you will be able to very seamlessly converse in that language. And this is what happens with people. People get overwhelmed sometimes. Itna karna padega, itna nahi karna padega. You start doing, you start taking action, 10%, 20%, you'll reach somewhere. And then you'll realize what is required, what is not required. As in copywriting. You would know, yaar, ye wali type of copy nahi chalengi. So you not put, bang your head on that. Ye chalengi, let's multiply this, yaar. It's okay. So in reels, when I create reels and I realize कि यार ये वाला format चल रहा है, ये वाला format नहीं चल रहा है, ये बोलूँगा तो ज़्यादा चल रहा है, तो मैं वही करूँगा ना. Why would I experiment now? I would experiment once these don't start work, these stop working. Then I'll experiment. Till that time, I'll eat whatever is on the plate for me.
Right.
So 20-80 is a part of everything which we do in life, and same is with investments. If you look at best of the best portfolios, if you look at Warren Buffett's wealth has come from 5 or 6 stocks. People feel that if I buy 50 stocks, 100 stocks, I would have more opportunity to make money. But that's over diversification. You can never make money by over diversification. You can make money only by concentrated bets. And that's what everybody says. Peter Lynch says the same thing. Warren Buffett says the same thing. Concentrated bets make you money. If you invest in an organization, if you invest in Gillette, and you have been with Gillette for the last 50 years, with Coke for the last 50 years, with Apple for the last 30 years, obviously you'll make money. But if you would have, say, Apple and then 30 or more companies, so you would have, the money you would have put in Apple would have been split in these 30 companies, out of which 15 would have not performed, and the main performer, you didn't give enough capital to that company, and you're nowhere. I'll give you an example. SoftBank is one of the largest funds in the world.
Yeah.
They sold Nvidia shares in 2019 for $3.6 billion.
Mm-hmm.
They put that money in WeWork and Oyo. The stake which they sold for $3.6 billion in Nvidia in 2019, after 5 years today, is valued at $200 billion. So their money has gone 25 times. If they would have stuck to Nvidia, their money would have grown 25 times from the place they left.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know what has happened with Oyo and WeWork. So greatest of the great companies also start over diversifying sometimes, and they are not able to make money out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Super concentrated bets. Super concentration always, hyper focus gets you money. Boring things gets you money.
Mm-hmm.
Fun doesn't get you money. I remember this ad by Alia Bhatt, Vico,
Mm-hmm.
where she says कि मजा नहीं चाहिए, असर चाहिए.
Mm-hmm.
So some people do brushing for मजा.
Mm-hmm.
टेस्ट आएगा, नमक मिलेगा, झाग मिलेगा. वो सब थोड़ी चाहिए, असर चाहिए ना, दांत ठीक चाहिए, कैविटी नहीं चाहिए.
Mm-hmm.
तो अगर आपको असर चाहिए, make concentrated bets across in your career, in your relationships. ठीक है, don't be Tinder bumble. सुबह किसी को डेट करके आया, शाम को किसी और को डेट करना है, अगले दिन किसी और को डेट. Don't be so, non-committal. Be committal to something in life.
Yeah, right.
Be it your profession, be it your partner, be it anyone, anything which you're doing. Be committal to that. Spend time with that, and you'll learn. And then you won't do much things. You'll only do that thing.
Mm-hmm.
See, I'll give you another example on this. There's a company called Hamdard,
Mm-hmm.
which makes a product called Ruh Afza. Now, Ruh Afza is a product I think is running for the last more than 60 years, 50, 60 years. And they don't have any other big product except that. They have one or two more, Safi and all that things. Their major revenue earner is Ruh Afza. Zero advertisement, 1,000 crores of revenue. Now, if the owner would have thought कि चल Ruh Afza तो चल गया, अब कुछ और ढूंढते हैं, मजा करते हैं, मजा. उससे छोड़ यार, एक चीज़ अच्छी चल रही है, इसको ज़्यादा जगह पहुंचाते हैं. तो if you make concentrated bets in your life, you are bound to make wealth which could be, far better than anybody who has diversified their portfolio. But then you need to know, you need to do that research, you need to do that, make that. Nobody wants to do that. Everybody wants to have the stain gun approach. 100 गोली चलाओ, एक लग गई, बढ़िया है, बहुत अच्छा है, very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to say like a sniper, just take the right shot, wait for the wind, understand what is happening, and then take one shot and kill.
I think that's a very expensive lesson. It takes a lot of effort and time to learn this. Even I have reached to the same conclusion. Maybe 3 years back, we used to have a thought process like we'll do 10 things. One thing will work, one copy would work, one ad would work, this client will get money. And now we only do 1 or 2 max and it works because just
It works better.
Yeah.
You get more money and you save more time.
Yeah. So I think that's the key lesson. So sir, like as entrepreneurs, I have seen among most of the people, either they lose the will to do the business or they lose the money that they have to do the business. So how do one avoid this circumstance कि उसके पास पैसा ना हो और he has to struggle with the money in his business, like SMEs specifically?
देखिए, 2 things, will and money. So we'll start with money, easier one. Money में जो है, my firm is called ProfitsFirst. So you need to have a profits first approach. That you have to take out your profit first and then you have to do expenses. If you do your expenses and then think of taking profit, वो कभी आता नहीं है. So if you make, let's say, 1 lakh rupee a month, put 20,000 aside. That this 20,000 is not available for the business. I have to take care of all the expenses in 80,000 rupees. And trust me, all the expenses will be taken care in 80,000 rupees. You will find at least 7 to 8 ऐसे expenses जो useless है. There may be some subscription, there may be some overpayments, there may be some person whom you don't even want and you are paying salary to him. There may be some extra space for which you are paying rent and electricity. There may be certain क्या कहते हैं, office spaces जिसके लिए आप ऐसे ही पैसा दे रहे हो, जिसमें there may be some softwares for which you are giving money which you don't require. There may be some newspaper subscription services you are paying for, but nobody is reading a newspaper in your entire office. So there are a lot of things which you are doing right now which you don't even know that you are doing. That's because you may have money. But if for a firm or a founder which doesn't have money, उसको अपना रेवेन्यू में से कॉस्ट अपना प्रॉफिट असाइड करके फिर कॉस्ट बोलना चाहिए, इतने में मेरे को धंधा करना है, मतलब करना है. So that is first learning. Second learning is try to become so good that you get paid first and you pay later. That means you can recover the money from the client earlier, you can receive some kind of advance from him. That helps your working capital cycle. ठीक है, तो ये सेकंड हैक है कि आप मनी को कैसे कर सकते हो. थर्ड, यू ऑलवेज नीड टू हैव एन ATM. What is an ATM? ATM is a place where you can go and take money. So similarly, as a founder, you need to have that network of 2-3 people who will support you without asking you any questions. So for example, you could say, ki, chalo, Sanjay is my ATM, and you call me at 12 o'clock in the night, Sanjay, I think tomorrow I'll have to pay salaries of 2 lakh rupees. I don't have that kind of money right now. I am receiving it after a few days. I trust you. I know that you will not dupe me. I know that you are the guy, I've been with you in a relationship. मैं जानता हूँ आपको एक अच्छे से बहुत टाइम से जानता हूँ, तो मैं आपको वो 2 लाख रुपए देने की I have the capability to give you that 2 lakh rupees. So I become your ATM. So you should have one या 2 ऐसा strong relations which become your ATM in dire states, and your duty is to return the money to him at the first go. See, इस बजट में क्या हुआ कि निर्मला सीतारमण ने कहा कि मुद्रा लोन को हम डबल कर रहे हैं, पर किसको डबल कर रहे हैं? जिसने पहले मुद्रा लोन लेके वापस किया है. यानी दे आर रिवॉर्डिंग अ बिहेवियर. सो इफ यू एज एन एंटरप्रेन्योर वांट टू हैव एन ATM, then you make sure that the moment that ATM gives you money, you return to him the moment you have that money, or you have committed him, let's say 20 days, or you commit him 30 days, 40 days, and you give him in 20 days. Next time he will never contest you. He will realize कि यार ये आदमी को पैसा देता हूँ वापस आ जाता है. ठीक है? Everybody wants to give money. It's okay. It's inherent nature to people. The only problem is when entrepreneur सामने से फोन भी नहीं उठाता, रिप्लाई भी नहीं करता, और उसके बाद फिर वो पैसा वापस भी नहीं करता. Then you don't have a sustainable business. That means you तो अब टोपीबाजी कर रहे हो, एक फंस गया, 2 फंस गया, ऐसे 4-5 लोग फंस जाएंगे, बट उसके बाद आप आगे नहीं बढ़ पाओगे. तो these are few hacks for money. Now for the will part of it. For the will part of it, you have to detach yourself from the business. You can't be emotional about the business. If you have to pivot, you have to pivot immediately. ठीक है, आप ये नहीं सोच सकते अरे यार मैंने इतना मेहनत से ये किया, ऐसा किया, वैसा किया. कोविड में होटल्स वर कन्वर्टेड इनटू हॉस्पिटल्स. अगर वो सोचते हमारा तो इतना एक्सपेंसिव इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है, ये है, वो है, तो वो सर्वाइव भी नहीं कर पाते. जो थोड़े बहुत बच गए वो भी नहीं बच पाते. तो यू हैव टू पिवट एज पर द नीड. सो फॉर दैट यू नीड टू डिटैच योर सेल्फ फ्रॉम दैट पर्टिकुलर बिजनेस, एंड द मोमेंट अ बिजनेस रिक्वायर्स अ पिवट, जस्ट पिवट. बट इफ यू आर वेरी कन्विंस्ड नहीं कि दिस इज द स्टार्ट ऑफ माई जर्नी एंड आई थिंक माई idea is correct, I need to test it for a little more time, you test it for a little more time. But if your business requires you to pivot immediately.
Coming back to the point of ATM, I think government also has some way, specifically for the new generation entrepreneurs, they have put up these ATM not in the real sense but in a metaphorical sense. I think a lot of infra is there. Could you talk more about what all is there for us? Probably.
See, there are a lot of forms of loans which are being given, and this budget has supported SMEs a lot. The first form of loan is Mudra loan, which is a very small loan. Then you have CGT MSE, which is credit guarantee scheme. So wherein if you're a service company, you can get collateral free loan up to 2 crore rupees. And if you're a manufacturing unit, you can get collateral free loan up to 5 crore rupees. It's in the hands of the bank that how they evaluate this. Third, till now, there was a very strict rule of evaluating which SME to give credit to. Now the government has said to the banks that you can have a relaxed framework and you can evaluate small and medium enterprises based on your framework if the small and medium enterprise is collecting money digitally. That means there is a record of that organization or that small medium enterprise that it is connecting money online, it has a POS, it has online billing. So then in that case also you don't require any collateral, and based on your transactions and the neatness of your transactions, a bank can give a loan as per its own evaluation mechanism. So that's been the latest change which has emerged in the last budget. Apart from that, there are a lot of grants which the government gives on basis of how unique your product is and what you are doing. Is it going to help the country in a certain manner? Then there are a lot of incubation centers which you can connect with the government. Again, they help you get the grant and they sometimes finance you based on equity also. And after that, you have standard loans, term loans, overdraft limits that you can use. And at the end, equity. You can raise money from venture capital, your friend, family, and you can go for an IPO. Right. So this is how the ladder is in terms of raising finance. But ATM is very necessary because no institution in this country or in this world will give you an overnight loan. And if your problem is stuck overnight, then sometimes you can have a great body, you can have a well-built body, but if there is no breath in that body, the body dies.
Right.
So cash flow is like breath to a business. You could have a great business, but if you have no cash flow, there's no point having that.
What are your thoughts on the way young generation is approaching business कि मैं VC से पैसा उठा लूँगा, I'll do X and Y Z and I'll buy a car and then I'll think about to invest in the business. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think this generation has the same thoughts which for a relationship which they have for a business. In a relationship also they want to just immediately, catch hold of a boy or a girl, date them, and then dump them after a certain amount of time. I think the same, and they are thinking that they can do with business, but business is a very long-term commitment, and so are relationships. So if you can't get into a long-term commitment, an enterprise takes almost 10 to 15 years to build, a meaningful enterprise. If you want to build a small company, it takes at least 3 to 5 years to build a small organization. A meaningful enterprise can take 15 to 20 years also. But if you're not ready to commit on that, then you are in for a very bad ride, because this is a very lonely journey. Every entrepreneur, there are a lot of employees, they will take money from you, do things, not do things. मैं हमेशा कहता हूँ कि हमारे शास्त्रों में जैसे शिव जी हैं, तो शिव जी की बारात जब निकली थी शादी के लिए पार्वती माता से, तो शिव जी की बारात में देव भी थे, दानव भी थे, ठीक है. तो शिव जी हैड द कैपेसिटी टू टेक बोथ ऑफ देम टुगेदर. देव भी मतलब गुड and the bad, evil and the good were there together in his marriage, going together, and they were not fighting amongst each other because they knew कि शिव जी की तीसरी आँख खुली तो अपनी बैंड बच जाएगी. तो एज एन एंटरप्रेन्योर आप भी शिव जी हो, आपको भी ये देव दानव को साथ में लेके चलना है. ये बारात है. You'll have good people in your life, you'll have bad people in your life, have people who will dump you, you will have people who will do very well for you. But at the end of the day, it is your responsibility. You have taken up this responsibility. If you become an athlete, you can't crib about the fact that you have to wake up at 4 a.m. Right? If you become an army man, you can't crib about the fact that you are at minus 60 degrees or minus 30 degrees sitting in Siachen. You can't crib because you have chosen that.
Right.
So if you choose the path of entrepreneurship, don't crib. It's a good minimum 3 to 5 year journey. And if you really want to build something brilliant like Zerodha or a Zoho or Zomato, somehow all are Z. So if you want to build any of these kind of organizations, great organizations, then you have to spend at least 15 years. I would rather say invest 15 years in this journey. So don't be non-committal. It's a journey. It's a choice. If you can't do this, no problem. It's okay. Go and do a job. Okay, become a freelancer. Become a professional. There is nothing wrong in it. It's your personal decision of life. But if you commit to becoming an entrepreneur, you're taking people's money. Okay? You are taking resources from people. You are taking time of people. You are taking people on job. Their life now starts depending upon you. So it's a Shivji ki Barat. You'll have to take care of everyone who's going along with you. So that's a very strong commitment. Bhai. Ye to itna aasan kaam nahi hai. You're an entrepreneur. I think you understand this better.
Yeah.
There would be days when you don't have money, but you still have to pay the salary.
Yeah.
So I understand. This guy Dipinder Goyal said once that there was 6 or 7 times in his journey that he was one night short to bankruptcy. So hota hai, ye part of journey, kuch nahi kar sakte.
And what, as per your perception or as per your experience, have been the fundamental things that if you stick to those few fundamentals, it will guide you through thick and thin, and you will just survive it. Like those few principles that you think are like just necessary to make it happen.
First of all, have a discipline. Have a very strong discipline. Be it the discipline of going to office. Be it discipline of turning up at work. You can't be sporadic. You can't be like one day I will be going to office at 9 a.m. The other day I'll be going to office at 11 a.m. No, you can't set such a trend. You need to be, if you're at office at 10 a.m., you have to be at 10 a.m. And I've learned this from some of my very good companies where I've worked. We know what time the promoter's car is going to arrive at the premise, what time he's going to enter the lift, what time he's going to exit, and what time he's going to be sitting on his chair. इतना सबको पता होता था. तो जब इस तरीके के आप डिसिप्लिन रखते हो, मैंने क्या कहा कि दुबई वर्सेस गांव. If the Dubai is disciplined, that's why people treat Dubai with respect. So how people will treat you will depend upon your own self. If you are late everywhere, people will turn up late. But if you are on time, people will turn up on time. So first is becoming an entrepreneur is choosing a disciplined life over an undisciplined life. Right. You can take a break, you can take a vacation, that's okay. But if you are in office, you are at work, you have to be extremely disciplined. Second thing, build an emergency fund. Minimum 6 months of your survival. Start building that fund slowly today. Because tomorrow something may happen, a COVID-like situation may happen where things may go wrong. Please build a very, very strong emergency fund. Ideally 1 year, but at least to start with 3 to 6 months you should have in your pocket. So you don't have that fear and you can work fearlessly. Third thing is, as I said, if you require to pivot, if your business requires you to pivot, if there's a sudden change in the business environment, don't get scared. Learn to pivot. Reach out to mentors. Reach out to people who can help you. Today, the ecosystem is very supportive. Even if you write a mail to Ritesh Agarwal, there's a very high chance of receiving a response from him. You have people who have achieved that in the past. So that is another thing which I believe. Fourth is, whatever problem you are facing has been solved in the past. You are not facing anything unique. So learn to have mentors, right mentors of that particular thing. They will short circuit your journey very, very strongly. So if you're, let's say, stuck in finance and you pick up a good CA who has been through such situations, he will solve that problem for you, let's say, in a day, which you would have taken months to solve. So reach out to people. Accept that this is a humbling journey. You can't be egoistic that I am everything and I know everything. Aham brahmasmi nahi chalta idhar. It's a humbling experience. You need to reach out to the right resources and you have to reach out to them and learn from them. Next time, maybe if you're facing the same problem, you may not be able to, you don't want to reach him, but if you have a unique problem, now find a new mentor. So this is another thing which I would like to tell business. If you do these things properly, manage your budgets, you need to be very sure of what kind of money you're spending every month. You need to be aware of your fixed cost. Have consciousness of your business. Today, if I ask you that what is your revenue, you need to know the exact count of your revenue. If I ask you, how much cost are you incurring? You need to know the exact cost. You can't say, ye mera CA janta hai. I know of a business, very good business, very amazing business, ruined by a chartered accountant, his own chartered accountant, in greed. Because the founder was, ye dekh raha hai, ye dekh raha hai, ye dekh raha hai. Business got ruined, finished. Now the guy is under debt. Both the companies are in NCLT. Why? Because he didn't keep a check on his accountant. And obviously, if you leave somebody unchecked, there's a high chance that, as I said, if you keep a system, people will respect it. If you don't keep a system, people don't respect it.
So as tech entrepreneurs, we are not very good with people. We will do have a team where we don't know how to even probably guide them well and educate them about everything, like whether it's technical thing, whether it's about money, it's about general consensus about the office. So how do you advise the tech entrepreneurs to approach it?
One way of doing it is that you can have a co-founder who can do this for you, who's good at all these kind of things. He can manage the backend for you and you can manage the technology. Generally, you need 3 co-founders if you want to build a reasonably good business. One is the tech person who understands the product and tech. Second is somebody who can manage the backend in terms of HR, finance and other things. And third is somebody who can market it well. Yeah. So if you have this combo, this is a brilliant combo, one of the most brilliant combos you can have. If you're not able to get that, then hire a good HR resource who can manage these kind of things, who can manage trainings, continuous trainings, improvements in your employees. Don't try to take this up as your own job. That's not your main job. And don't get baffled by this because it can get overwhelming because it's about people. So hand it to the right set of people, hand the right consultants or the co-founder and give it to them. They will do it for you.
I think we all need to stop being generalist and focus
Yes,
on
absolutely.
specialist.
In this world now, you cannot be a generalist. Very, very difficult to be a complete generalist. And maybe you will also need to learn. You don't know how to handle. As I said, as an entrepreneur, find out mentors who are in a situation. You are in a situation, and they have handled it before that.
Right.
So find such people. Every problem which you are facing has been solved. Don't worry. This problem is very little problem for HR people. So just find the right person.
I generally call this personal board of advisors.
Yeah.
And I have my list ready and, I just go to them, I try to DM them or just read what they've written. So it's a very nuanced way of looking at it. Coming to the other aspect, so I see a lot of young entrepreneurs jumping into entrepreneurship, leaving their job, leaving their freelance work and, registering a company, starting few things, doing branding, launching a website, saying that they will sell this or this new product is there, this will revolutionize XYZ. And after 6 months, I see a lot of people just losing the hope that this is too tough. They don't want to just do it. They kind of fickle. Probably I'm just using a very rude word.
Sure.
But how do these, how do these folks needs to understand the ground reality and then operate?
See, first of all, people need to understand their own nature. Personally. You don't do things just because somebody is successful at it. Neeraj Chopra is a great javelin thrower or he he's the best at it, but can you be? Is the question. So one is, first of all, you have to understand yourself. That how are you as a person? Are you a person who is enterprising, or are you a person who's submissive and he wants to work under direction? Are you a person who can create a direction every time, or are you just somebody who would want to take orders or you're great in execution? So that is the first thing you have to understand. You have to understand about yourself. Second is you have to understand what it entails to take that role of an entrepreneur. As I said, if you want to become an army professional, you cannot crib about the fact that you have to be in Siachen at minus 60 degrees. If you want to be an athlete, you cannot crib about the fact that you have to wake up at 3 a.m., be on the ground at 4 a.m. and start running or start practicing for 16 hours a day. तो आप पहले ये समझ लो कि who you are and what it entails to be an entrepreneur. Now, what it entails to be an entrepreneur could be a two-step journey. You feel you are ready for an entrepreneurship journey. Okay, नहीं यार मैं तो मस्त आदमी हूँ, मैं तो कर लूँगा, फोड़ दूँगा, इसने कर दिया, उसने कर दिया. No problem. Now you don't take the entrepreneurship step. You work with a startup. You start working with a startup. You go to a startup and say, I will work with you. My salary in, let's say, TCS is 1 lakh rupee a month. You're a startup. I will work with you for 60,000 rupees. पहले कट तो लेके दिखाओ एक बार सैलरी पे. बड़े आए एंटरप्रेन्योर बनने वाले. एक बार कट तो लेके दिखाओ कि तुम्हारी सैलरी 1 लाख चल रही है और तुम 60,000 पे आओ. तब पता चलेगा कि 6 महीने जब आप 60,000 पे काम करोगे उस एनवायरनमेंट में जहाँ पे क्लैरिटी नहीं है, जहाँ पे तुम्हें पता नहीं अगली सैलरी आएगी कि नहीं आएगी. राइट नाउ यू आर नॉट एन एंटरप्रेन्योर, यू आर स्टिल somebody who has a job. Just that you have changed your environment to the environment where you wish to be. To be in a startup for 6 months, realize what is it like working 18 hours a day without clarity. What is it like working with somebody, entrepreneur who himself doesn't have clarity what to do. He may not have all the answers. In TCS you were getting this subah you have to come and do this and then go home. No problem. Saturday, Sunday छुट्टी. Now you're in a place Saturday, Sunday छुट्टी नहीं है. 20 दिन आप घर नहीं जा पा रहे हो, कोड कर रहे हो, ये फट गया, AWS फट गया, ऐसा हो गया, वैसा हो गया, प्रोजेक्ट नहीं लॉन्च हुआ, मार्केटिंग का मटेरियल नहीं आया. होती है ना ये सारी प्रॉब्लम स्टार्टअप में. तो झेलो तो सही एक बार जाके. और अभी तो किसी और की गाड़ी में बैठे हो आप. यू आर स्टिल नॉट द एंटरप्रेन्योर, यू आर जस्ट टेकन अ पे कट एंड यू हैव एंटर्ड दैट एनवायरनमेंट. नाउ इफ यू लव इट कि बॉस मजा आ गया, दिस आई कैन डू फॉर 0 rupees फॉर नेक्स्ट 3 years, देन गेट इनटू एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप.
Acclimatization.
Yes.
Slowly.
First learn that environment ना. ना आपको एनवायरनमेंट को जानते ही नहीं हो. अगर आपको एक एक्टर बनना है तो जस्ट बिकॉज ऋतिक रोशन को आपने देख लिया या शाहरुख को देख लिया, लुक एट देयर हार्ड वर्क. फॉर डेज एंड डेज देर आउट ऑफ देयर हाउस, दे स्टार्ट देयर शिफ्ट्स एट 7 a.m. दे आर वेरी हाईली पेड लेबर. In heat they have to dance, in cold they have to wear less clothes and dance. ठीक है. They are working to get that one perfect shot and still they don't know how their outcome would be. That you and I decide, who don't know anything about acting.
Right.
ठीक है. So point is कि the moment you want to become someone, first see what path they have treaded. You want to become Sachin Tendulkar? First see what his routine was, how he has reached where he reached, what was his discipline. कपिल देव एक बात बोलते थे, 4 बजे उठने का टाइम नहीं है, मैदान पे आने का टाइम है. 4 बजे मॉर्निंग उठने का टाइम नहीं है, मैदान पे आने का टाइम है. दैट मीन्स यू हैव टू वेक अप एट 3 a.m., गेट रेडी एंड बी एट द ग्राउंड्स एट 4 a.m. सो इफ यू वांट टू बिकम एन एंटरप्रेन्योर, डोंट गो फॉर द फ्रिल. यार ये बंदे ने बहुत छाप लिया यार, ये दीपेंद्र गोयल ने तो मैक्सिकन से शादी कर ली और पॉर्श घुमा रहा है और 110 करोड़ का घर खरीद लिया. लुक एट हिज जर्नी, लुक एट व्हाट ही इज, लुक एट हाउ डिसिप्लिन्ड दैट मैन इज. Look at how he pivots, his speed, his creativity. Go and work with him for 6 months. You'll realize what it takes to be an entrepreneur. Then if you realize कि भाई अपना काम नहीं, it's okay, no problem. Do your service, do your job. You can do well there also.
Right. And I think in very simple words, we have to fall in love with the process and the daily boring chores, not the fancy things. Then magic will happen.
Magic happens. And see, I always say that if you can do that work for free for 3 years and be happy about it. अगर आप बोलो कि मेरे को तनख्वाह नहीं मिल रही 3 साल, पर मैं फिर भी खुश रहने वाला हूँ, तब वो काम आप पकड़ लो. then you will do wonders in that. Because now your motive is no more money. If you start thinking, यार इतना मिल जाए कि मेरा घर का खर्चा चल जाए, then you are still not clear. आर या पार की लड़ाई करो, तब entrepreneur बनो. Successful entrepreneur, all of them that. आर या पार की लड़ाई करी उन्होंने. See, understand, Mark Zuckerberg giving up his Harvard seat. आपको मेरे को हार्वर्ड मिल जाए ना, जिंदगी में वो सीट ना छोड़े. उसने गिव अप कर दिया क्योंकि he had something which was bigger in his mind. And he fell in love with that thing. 24 hours a day he was doing that thing.
Right. So the irony is that if we run after money, it's not gonna work out. We fall in love with what works and what we are passionate about. The world rewards.
Absolutely. And it is very simple, but people don't realize it.
Yeah, that's beautiful actually.
It is. And and then you're not working any day of your life.
Yeah.
Today, if people ask me that you're retired, why are you working so hard? I feel that I'm not working at all because I'm doing something which I really love. I always wanted to educate people on finance, business. That was my passion. And here I'm doing that. Through you, through others who have been kind enough to bring me on their platform. And I've been able to maybe give some value to people of my learnings and trying to educate them in finance and business. But I'm not, I can do this for hours and hours without getting any payment. So
Right.
that's when I'll become very good at it. And maybe tomorrow I'll get a lot of money out of this also. But that's not my motive. I can do this free for 3 years, with my passion.
Lovely.